What does a soldier fear more than death? For the Japanese warrior in World War II, the answer was simple. Shame surrender was a stain on family and emperor, worse than any bullet. So imagine his shock when the enemy's greatest weapon wasn't a bayonet, but a bar of soap. Not a blade or a shout, but warm water, a bar of American soap, a neat haircut, a pressed uniform, small things, ridiculous even. And yet those small things begin to pry at the armor around his mind. They don't just clean his body, they start to remap what it means to be strong. For a soldier in the Imperial Japanese Army, this isn't just duty, it's doctrine carved into bone. There is no surrender. Capture is not a misstep or a bad luck. It is a moral obliteration, a shame so deep it would stain his family, haunt his descendants, and dishonor the emperor. Boys are taught to see survival as cowardice, to prefer death over the disgrace of being taken alive. Training doesn't only harden the body, it rewires the conscience to hold position, to fight on, to accept annihilation if it preserves honor. Every order, every lesson whispers the same terrible calculus: die clean or live forever disgraced. In the brutal, humid jungles of the Pacific, he has been taught what to expect from the Americans: torture, interrogation, and a swift, merciless execution. Torture, interrogation, death. Those words aren't warnings, they're doctrine. Every drill, every whispered story at mess and guard duty hammers the same lesson into him. Never be taken alive. Capture is not a possibility. It's an unbearable stain on his family and his emperor, a shame worse than death itself. So he steels his body and hardens his heart, rehearsing the final act of defiance, because this is the enemy he has prepared his mind and spirit to face. But for the few who are captured, wounded, and exhausted, the end does not come. They are rounded up at gunpoint and shoved onto transport trucks, ships, boxcars packed shoulder to shoulder, blood and sweat drying on their skin, silence broken only by the creak of metal and low, terrified whispers. The journey is a slow, hot punishment. Fear settles in like a fever, every man certain he's headed for a darker fate. He arrives at an American-run POW camp. The air is different, cleaner, almost antiseptic, and the sounds are wrong. Measured footsteps, distant clatter, a calm that has no place in the jungle. He braces for the blow, for a shouted command, for the merciless cruelty his officers warned him would come from the victor. Every muscle tightens. Every old rule spins in his head. No surrender, no shame. He scans faces and fences, ready for punishment, and finds only an unnerving, patient order. The first shock hits like a punch that never came. Instead of a bayonet, someone sets a bowl of steaming stew in front of him. Instead of curses and fists, a medic kneels and unwraps his wounds with gentle hands. He expects a scream. He gets a question. Are you hurt? The heat of the broth, the smell of meat and salt, the sterile sting of disinfectant, they are foreign. The brutality he rehearsed collapses into baffling order. Guards stand watch. Radios crackle. Men move with quiet efficiency. Nothing about this feels like victory or revenge. It's care, and care feels like an accusation. He watched, wary and confused. Everything he'd been taught, the stories of American savagery, the whispered warnings that capture was worse than death, began to feel wrong, like a line from a play he didn't remember auditioning for. He watched the medic move with calm hands, the way a bowl of stew was handed over without malice, the orderly routines that smelled of order, not cruelty. His training tried to name the feeling fear, rage, shame. Instead, there was a hollowing certainty, a slow, dizzying unravel. The neat facts of his enemy no longer fit the messy truth in front of him. This wasn't the barbaric devil he'd been prepared to fight. The camp itself is organized to an almost absurd degree. Neat rows of low wooden barracks, clean bunks made with crisp sheets, mess halls where men file in by the dozens for the same steaming stew at the same hour. Guards patrol with quiet efficiency. Schedules are posted. Showers run hot on a reliable timetable. For a man who expected chaos and cruelty, the calm is corrosive. It doesn't just surprise him, it undermines him. Order becomes an argument, and every small kindness feels like evidence that the enemy speaks a language he was never taught to understand. It's alien. It's humiliating. It's dangerously persuasive. Then a new command snaps through the morning like a whip. Men fall into line and are marched toward a long, low wooden building with no fanfare, no explanation, just the steady clack of boots and the blank faces of guards, rifles leveled and indifferent. Rumors race through him. Punishment, interrogation, the bayonet. Every step tightens the knot in his gut. He steels himself for cruelty, for the expected outrage. This, he tells himself, is where the real torment begins. They are forced inside. The long wooden hall smells of damp timber and iron. It's a communal shower. Guards stand impassive as men are ordered to strip. Their ragged, filth-caked uniforms, the last vestiges of a warrior identity, are kicked onto the floor in a sodden heap. Steam lingers. The clatter of buttons and the slap of fabric fills the air. For many, this is more than exposure. It's the first, unmistakable unmaking of who they thought they were. Stripped of his ragged uniform and forced to stand naked beneath the unblinking gaze of armed men, humiliation lands like a physical weight. Every inch of exposed skin feels like proof of failure, a public ledger of a shame that in his world is worse than death. In a culture that prizes stoic honor, this forced vulnerability is not just discomfort, it is the erasure of rank, a removal of the last visible tokens of soldierhood, mud-streaked sleeves, frayed insignia, the jungle's grime. He has no posture left to hold, no performance to hide behind. He waits, heart tight, braced for what comes next. He braces for ice and pain, short, brutal water that will sting and finish him. Instead, a wash of heat hits skin that's been savaged by jungle and sun. Steam curls up like a lie. For the first time in months, maybe years, he feels hot water, real, deliberate warmth, sliding over cuts and caked mud, and it unravels him. Relief and panic twist together. How can comfort feel like defeat? He finds himself blinking, disoriented, as the heat strips grime and, with it, a wall he didn't know he'd built. Then a guard moves closer, offering something small and foreign. A guard thrusts a small, unfamiliar object into his hand, a bar of American soap. The scent is alien, sharp, chemical, painfully clean, and it feels like another layer of contamination, as if the enemy's civility itself could soil him. He stares at that pale rectangle, absurd and obscene in a dirt-streaked palm, and for a moment the war narrows to this ridiculous, humiliating trade. Life in exchange for a bath. He wants to spit it away. He wants to clutch it like a weapon. Instead, he holds it like a confession, suddenly aware that something as trivial as soap can begin to remake a man. The cleansing is more than skin deep, it's a quiet unmaking. As the grime of jungle campaign slides off, so do the outward marks of who he thought he was. The mud, the sweat, the ritual scars that said, "I survived." Hot water licks at old aches. The soap smells like a world he was taught to hate. Each rinse feels like an erasure. He watches flecks of himself go down the drain, and with them, a stubborn piece of that hardened, enduring soldier recedes, less a man unmade by violence than one softened by routine, comfort, and an enemy that can win by simply keeping him alive. The next ritual of submission begins. In the jungle, an unshaven face was a badge of endurance, a map of mud, salt, and sleepless nights that proved you had lived through it. Every whisker was a small, stubborn testimony to hardship. But in the camp, that evidence is outlawed. No beard, no visible struggle. The rule lands like an order: strip, stand, be made tidy. It is a humiliation dressed up as hygiene, intimate, slow, and deliberate. And it does something to a man's sense of self. The hard lines of a fighter blur. The raw history on his skin is smoothed away. And with each forced clean stroke, that private proof of survival slips out of reach. Then they hand out razors. The process is mandatory. Guards supervise every motion, no exceptions. They show them how to lather, how to hold the blade, the short, steady strokes of the American shave. Precise, routine, efficient. For men who wore stubble like a badge of hardship, it feels absurd. It feels emasculating. What should be simple hygiene reads like an ordered lesson in obedience. Each instructed pass of the razor is another small surrender. He lines up with the others, hands shaking, and knows this is another piece of himself about to be shaved away. He scrapes the blade across his skin, feeling the sharp, unfamiliar friction as the stubble comes away in thin, stubborn strips. Months of jungle etched into a face being wiped clean. Each stroke is simple. Each stroke is final. This isn't about comfort. He knows that, in his bones. It's a lesson dressed up as hygiene, a small, precise act of discipline meant to rewire him, to teach routine, compliance, and the quiet acceptance that the man he was can be shaved off, one careful pass at a time. He catches his own face in a spoon-sized mirror, and for the first time it betrays him a clean, almost boyish countenance, where the hardened soldier should be. Smooth skin, a trimmed jaw, eyes that no longer flash with the stubborn, relentless defiance he'd carried into the jungle. The grime and the scowl have been scrubbed away, replaced by the bland, manageable look of a compliant inmate. The thought comes slow and terrible. Is this how they break you? Not with bayonets, but with mirrors and routines that quietly hollow out what you called honor. He swallows, unsettled, and knows something else is coming. The transformation takes on a new, almost absurd geometry. A barbershop, whole and ordinary as any town's, transplanted into a prison compound. Chairs in a row. Mirrors polished to a cold glare. The low, insectile hum of electric clippers threads through the space like a foreign language. For men who hacked hair with bayonets or let it grow into jungle tangles, it feels like a theater set domestic, civilized, and utterly out of place. The room is bright. The schedule is strict. Even grooming has been bureaucratized. It's not mercy, he thinks. It's method, another quiet ritual designed to remake him, one clip at a time. To men who had hacked hair with bayonets or let it grow wild in the jungle, the sight is jaw-dropping rows of shiny chairs, glass mirrors catching the fluorescent light, the steady, alien whine of electric clippers like a machine from another world. There's a faint smell of talc and disinfectant, neat piles of towels, a hum of small talk and careful motions that make no sense in a foxhole. It doesn't look like punishment. It looks like a salon. It looks like comfort. It looks like something designed to erase the dirt and danger they wore as proof of honor. And that realization makes the place feel less like a camp and more like a challenge to everything they are. He sits stiffly in the chair, shoulders tight, eyes fixed on the mirror, waiting for the sneer, the shove, the joke. Nothing comes. The barber, sometimes an American, sometimes another prisoner, moves with calm, mechanical efficiency. Hands steady, tools clean, no spectacle, no cruelty. The routine is matter of fact, and that ordinary competence feels, to him, like another small erasure. The clippers buzz a clean electric whir that eats the last of the jungle's chaos. His matted hair peels away in gritty clumps and drops to the floor. He watches like he's watching someone else. In the mirror, the lines are sharper, the neck exposed, the face almost younger. The haircut is efficient, clinical, and utterly foreign. For a moment, he searches for the soldier he knows and finds only a stranger's calm, cropped head. The shock isn't pain. It's the sudden, quiet theft of who he thought he was. The jungle-worn fighter is gone. In the mirror, he sees not a hardened veteran, but a tidy, unfamiliar face, clean-shaven, hair cropped short, skin scrubbed raw by hot water and foreign soap. Each little change feels like an incision. The beard shaved away, the matted hair clipped, the dirt washed from the creases of his uniform. It isn't just grooming, it's erasure. Pride peels off in thin, humiliating layers until all that's left is a compliant prisoner staring back. He feels betrayed by the comfort, by the calm efficiency that stole him without violence, yet even as shame pools in his chest, a tiny, practical relief nags at the edge of his anger. Yet as days turned into weeks, a grudging appreciation grew. The short hair meant fewer lice, fewer frantic scratches during the midday march, fewer bites under the collar, and in that relentless Pacific heat, it was a small, undeniable mercy. He slept deeper. Wounds itched less. The little ritual of combing became a private relief he couldn't confess, a softness that felt like betrayal to a code that prized suffering. Shame sat beside comfort at his table. He found himself trading rigid pride for practical ease, and that quiet trade would make the next layer of the camp, the tailor and laundry, feel almost inevitable. Just as they begin to accept clean hair and steaming laundry, the camp lifts another veil, a tailor shop. Men watch as their tattered, blood and sweat-stained tunics and field jackets are stripped away, folded, cataloged. It feels like theft of memory uniforms that held honor, struggle, identity gone under bright lights, exchanged for smooth, identical garments and the uneasy silence that follows. Those blood and sweat-stained uniforms, once a living badge of hardship, loyalty, and the emperor, are stripped away and stacked like refuse. In their place come plain, standardized POW clothes, neat seams, and muted fabric handed out with clinical efficiency. It isn't just a change of outfit. It's a quiet erasure, no crests, no mud, no smell of the jungle to prove you lived through it. He runs his fingers over a sleeve and feels something slide away inside him, honor becoming cloth. The new garments are cleaner, safer, almost comfortable. And as the camp wheels turn, some men with needlework skill are quietly put to work, sewing those very clothes, another piece of their old life folded into the system. Men with pre-war sewing skills are pressed into service, clustered at rows of humming machines, hands moving with a practiced economy that feels almost military in its precision. Torn sleeves are stitched, frayed collars reinforced, buttons replaced with a speed that makes them dizzy neat seams where there had been blood and jungle mud. The work is mundane, almost loving in its care. It's efficient to the point of being maddening. Why would the enemy bother to mend what once marked your sacrifice? Then comes the ultimate, unbelievable luxury, the camp laundry service. Collections run on a clockwork schedule, metal carts clattering through the rows, numbered tags clipped to bundles, men instructed to line up with their rags. Steam hisses like industry, great boilers and conveyor presses whine and churn, white vapor ghosting against the humid air. The scale is stupendous, a grinding domestic machine that makes jungle washing look prehistoric. They stand and watch, dumbfounded, as filthy shirts become crisp collars and mud-stained trousers return folded. The comfort is small and huge, at once almost a surrender. Soon they are issued clean bed linens too, and nothing will feel the same. They hand him a bundle of sheets, clean, folded, smelling faintly of soap and starch, and for a moment he doesn't know what to do with them. Months of damp foxholes, of sweat and mud clinging to skin, have taught him to expect discomfort as proof of honor. These sheets are soft, they're cool under his fingertips. The neat corners, the absence of lice, the scent of cleanliness feel obscene, like a luxury he hasn't earned. Part of him bristles with furious shame, part of him is bewildered by relief. He realizes, with a stab of guilt, that something as simple as a bed can unmake a soldier. That night, he will face those sheets. That night, he lies on clean, crisp sheets. The fabric is cool against his skin, the pillow fluffed, the blanket neatly tucked, small civilized things he'd forgotten even existed. The comfort sinks into him like a foreign language. His muscles unclench and his thoughts drift back to mud, sweat, and men who hadn't been given this softness. Gratitude gnaws at him beside a hotter, sharper thing: shame. How could he rest here while others died in tangled vines and stinking rain? Sleep comes in fits, halting, guilt-streaked. This softness reads like an accusation and a promise. He falls asleep wondering whether he has been rescued or quietly unmade. A disturbing realization begins to dawn. The soap, the razors, the haircuts, the pressed uniforms are not random acts of compassion. They are components. Small, daily rituals stacked like cogs in a machine designed to convert a fighting man into a manageable body. Cleanliness becomes discipline. Neat hair becomes conformity. Stitched uniforms erase the visible scars of battle. Together, these comforts do more than soothe. They reshape how a man sees himself, replace hardship with routine, and make resistance feel unreasonable. This isn't kindness, it's strategy. The camp's care is an instrument, a quiet, efficient weapon that conquers from the outside in. He finally understands. This isn't kindness, it's a system, a deliberate machine built out of soap and schedules, razors and routines. Every small mercy is a gear: hot water that cleans more than skin, a haircut that scrapes away a warrior's face, clean clothes that strip off a uniform of defiance. It's not charity, it's architecture. The Americans aren't gentle because they pity him. They're reshaping him into someone predictable, healthy, manageable. Comfort becomes strategy. Order becomes weapon. More dangerous than a rifle because it works from the inside, remaking identity one mundane ritual at a time. He sees the contrast in brutal clarity. Where the Japanese army forged discipline through hunger, beatings, and the crushing command to erase yourself. This camp enforces obedience with timetables, neat beds, and polite orders. It's discipline without spectacle, a steady, domestic order that drills the day into him. Wake, wash, shave, work, sleep, all on schedule. Tiny comforts become lessons. Cleanliness is recast as a demand. The shock isn't mercy so much as instruction. They're not trying to humiliate him into submission. They're teaching him to be manageable, to accept being remade from the inside out. This isn't about breaking his body, it's about rerouting his mind, one small, civilized act at a time. A warm shower, a shave, a neat haircut, clean clothes folded on a bunk. Each gesture seems trivial until you notice the pattern efficiency applied to a human being. The Americans don't scream or strike, they schedule, sort, and sanitize. They trade chaos for routine, hunger for regular rations, filth for order, until the habits that sustained his warrior identity quietly unthread. It's a slow, industrial kindness, that teaches compliance by comfort, turning resistance into resignation without a single shot fired. An orderly, clean prisoner is a compliant prisoner. That's the brutal logic behind the kindness. A healthy prisoner is a manageable one. It isn't cruelty at work so much as calculation. Warm meals, regular medical care, a razor and a haircut, clean uniforms and hot showers become instruments. Each small comfort tightening control a little more. Disease is prevented, unrest is nipped in the bud, labor is reliable, and the camp runs like a factory. They aren't being punished, they're being pacified. Their resistance softened not by force, but by a slow, efficient replacement of hardship with order, a replacement that chips away at the warrior inside. It isn't a bayonet that defeats him, it's 1,000 small, civilized gestures. By taking away the grime, shaving his beard, confiscating the tattered uniform, the Americans stripped not just dirt, but the visible proof of who he was. Those marks of suffering and loyalty, proof to himself and to others, are erased, and with them goes the anchor of defiance. The camp's routines become a quiet curriculum. Hygiene replaces hardship, order replaces chaos. Kindness becomes a test of obedience. Each shaved cheek, each pressed shirt chips away at his story of honor until resistance doesn't collapse with a shout, but dissolves from the inside out. The will to resist begins to fade, replaced by a strange sense of resignation. He finds himself obeying orders he would have spit on before. Small comforts, a warm meal, a shave, a clean uniform arrive like quiet surrenders. Each one removes a stone from the wall of his anger until there's nothing left to hurl. The camp's cleanliness and order are not lullabies but locks. Schedules, hygiene, rhythm, and steady provision that corral the mind better than any fence. Humiliation gives way to dependence, and dependence to an exhausted acceptance, an invisible prison built of civility and efficiency rather than barbed wire. He finally sees it with terrible clarity. The Geneva rules, the neat hospitals, the clean uniforms, not mere decency, but a performance. It's a public broadcast in human form, a way to say, without bullets, this is what our life looks like. The point isn't only mercy, it's demonstration. Soap becomes a statement. Showers become proof. Every comfortable detail argues that their enemy is ordered, abundant, and therefore superior. That realization lands like a physical blow, because it reframes every kindness he's received as part of a larger message, one designed to unmake him from the inside out. But pragmatism is the true driver. He understands, suddenly and coldly, that those hot meals and clean sheets aren't charity, they're containment. The Americans keep latrines scrubbed, wounds dressed, and the sick isolated because a fever in a barracks can spread faster than a bullet and knock out men on both sides. Treating prisoners is risk management. Stop epidemics before they cripple guard units, preserve manpower, and protect supply lines. The gestures of kindness are revealed as components of a calculated system, chosen because they reduce threats and save resources. In that moment, compassion and calculation merge, and the truth settles in. Mercy, here, is efficient warfare. It isn't mercy, it's calculation. Healthy prisoners are less likely to riot. Well-fed prisoners are easier to manage. Those small comforts, a warm meal, a clean blanket, a steady schedule, do more than ease suffering. They buy compliance, soften resolve, and make resistance feel not only futile but foolish. When your daily worries shift from survival to comfort, your identity shifts with them. Pride erodes in the space between a hot dinner and a clean bunk. What looks like kindness is actually quiet control, a soft cage built of food rations and soap, and it all points to something much larger. He looks around and it hits him all at once, the stacks of crates, the steady stream of trucks, the lines of white sheets flapping in the hot wind, men moving like parts in a machine, food carts rolling, stores of soap and razors cataloged and counted, clinics buzzing with quiet efficiency. It isn't scattershot charity. It's choreography. Every meal timed, every uniform mended, every latrine scrubbed on schedule. The scale is clinical and calm. The truth is ugly and simple. This is not mercy so much as muscle. A national capacity turned into a method, a logistical force that defeats the spirit by outsupplying it. This is not charity. It's a demonstration of American industrial might, a power that doesn't ask soldiers to be stoic, to outlast hunger or thirst, but instead removes scarcity altogether. Think rail cars full of canned stew, warehouses stacked with uniforms, steam-powered laundries turning filthy rags into pressed shirts, factories churning out razors and soap by the thousand. Ships, trucks, and conveyor belts deliver hygiene, medicine, and heat on a schedule. That logistical abundance becomes a weapon, not bullets, but predictability, comfort, and routine that quietly unravels the enemy's code of honor, and that same industrial logic will soon order every hour of their days. The control isn't just military muscle, it's architecture. Every path, every barracks, every mess hall is plotted like a circuit, designed to funnel men where the camp wants them, when the camp wants them. Fences, gates, watchtowers, numbered bunks, and blunt signage remove choice. Even the toilets and laundry have their appointed times. Movement becomes choreography. Noise, light, and the placement of food shape rhythm. There are no surprises, only predictable turns and dead ends that teach obedience by repetition. You don't need a whip when the world around you schedules your next breath. The layout itself keeps you in line. A rigid schedule governs every hour. At dawn, a bell or horn blares. Men stumble into neat lines for roll call. Tasks are parceled out: field work, latrine duty, repairing fences, tending crops, every movement accounted for. There's no drifting, no private time. Even breaths are scheduled, wrapped inside a timetable that turns human beings into predictable cogs. Even their downtime is scheduled. Organized sports, classes, and recreation hours are slotted into the camp timetable not as kindness, but as containment. Basketball, sewing, English lessons, small routines that fill the hours, replace uncertainty with purpose, and teach obedience in soft, invisible ways. Idle hands, they know, breed trouble. Structured leisure quietly channels restlessness into harmless rhythms, turning free time into another cog in the machine. The control is quiet, relentless, not a shout or a lash, but a steady, numbing cadence. The bugle, the roll call, the measured clink of mess tins, the scheduled labor, the hour for sport, the hour for study. There's no chaos to spike the blood, no sudden cruelty to rally against. Everything is anticipated, accounted for, compartmentalized, until resistance feels pointless. It's like being wound into a clock, each man a gear turning at a prescribed pace, kept moving by the smallest comforts meant to distract and normalize. Slowly, almost without noticing, habit and order begin to replace defiance, and that is the most effective kind of control. He confronts the ultimate, soul-crushing paradox. As a captive of the enemy, he is living better, healthier, safer, more nourished than he ever did as a soldier for his own emperor. Clean food, regular medicine, a bed that isn't mud, small, ordinary mercies that feel obscene next to the stoic suffering he was taught to prize. Each comfort is a tiny betrayal, a quiet undermining of everything he believed honor demanded. He hates it and craves it at once. Shame claws at him even as his strength returns. The enemy's system hasn't shattered him with force. It's unmade him with care. It hits him like an accusation. The warrior spirit, hardened by jungle and sacrifice, is powerless in the face of comfort. Not a single bayonet or shouted order broke him, but hot water, clean clothes, a predictable schedule did. Small human comforts seeped in, unarmored, until indignity turned to dependency. Habit replaced honor. Pride eroded under the steady drip of daily routine. The camp never raised a hand, it rearranged his world. In that quiet, bureaucratic way, the Americans win. Not by bloodshed, but by making life tolerable enough that resistance feels pointless. He is conquered, intact, but changed. When the announcement comes over the camp, loudspeakers flat, official, almost absurd in its normalcy, the reaction is not the roar of anger the men had braced for, but a long collective exhale, a tired, hollow kind of relief, braided with something heavier. Faces that months ago expected only death look up and register the strange fact of survival. Some sit very still. Others let their shoulders drop, like ropes finally untied. There are no victory cries, only quiet conversations, a few low sobs, the shuffle of boots on packed earth. Acceptance, not triumph. An exhausted resignation that carries with it a darker question about what comes next. The uneasy journey home. The journey home is one of anxiety, long trains, crowded docks, a knot in the chest that won't loosen. How will they be received? As survivors who cheated death, or as cowards who carry the indelible stain of surrender? He imagines faces in the station, stiff bows, averted eyes, whispered questions. He pictures the medals he never earned and the empty chairs of those who died. There's a private, quiet gratitude for the men who kept him alive, and a louder, darker fear of being punished by memory and honor. Between relief and shame he rides, unsure which will define him when he steps ashore. He returns to a devastated Japan. Cities are shells, faces are hollow, and the language of war has turned to whispers and questions. When he talks carefully, almost ashamed about the hot showers, the warm stew, the crisp sheets, people recoil. Some laugh as if it's a joke, others glare as if he'd betrayed something. Disbelief curls into suspicion. Survivors are expected to tell stories of heroism, not of comfort. His words don't fit the script, so they're filed away as proof of weakness or worse, of surrender. He stands there, stripped of simple comforts and easy explanations, wondering which is worse, the ruin outside or the judgment inside. He carries a dual burden, the public shame of having been captured, a stain that follows him in the eyes of family, neighbors, and the old code that equates surrender with disgrace, and a private, almost shameful gratitude for the enemy who, in an odd and intimate way, kept him alive and human. He knows how it sounds, so he says little. Praise the Americans, and you invite suspicion. Keep quiet, and you live with a secret debt. That tension hollows him out. It turns simple memories, a shave, a hot shower, clean sheets, into small, guilty mercies he guards like contraband. Years later, in smoky halls and around folding tables, other veterans swap stories of last stands and desperate bayonet charges, voices rough with pride. He says nothing. He listens instead, a small private silence that holds more than modesty, shame, gratitude, confusion. To admit that a warm shower or a clean uniform felt like salvation would be to betray the dead, to explain away the emperor's code that made capture a crime. So he keeps those memories locked away, the barber's hum, the weight of pressed trousers, the sickening ease of survival, and when the room erupts in praise for battlefield valor, he remains silent. He stays quiet because the things that haunted him weren't bullets or explosions. They were small, ordinary acts that felt like betrayals. The sudden shock of a barber's blade against his matted hair, the razor's sting, and the strange lightness of a face without a beard. The clean uniform, ironed and patched, settled on him like someone else's skin. The warm shower, not a trickle, but a steady heat that washed away grit, blood, and the armor of survival, felt almost obscene. Those domestic details lodged themselves in his memory, quieter and stranger than any battle scene, and they would quietly unmake the certainties he'd carried into the war. He had gone to war convinced the Americans were weak, decadent, soft, a people who lived on comfort, and that belief had steeled him against mercy. Instead, he met hot water, clean sheets, and razor blades, small things that knocked him off balance more surely than any shell. Each courtesy felt like a shove, each well-pressed uniform like an accusation. You survived, but at what cost? Shame and gratitude tangled in his chest. He had expected to defeat men. He found himself confronting a different enemy entirely, not cruelty, but a relentless, organized system that slowly unpicked the soldier he once was. He discovered a strength he couldn't comprehend, a power expressed not through stoic suffering, but through overwhelming, undeniable, soul-altering order. It arrived in timetables and soap bars, in barbershop hums and steaming laundry, in trays of hot stew and steady medical hands. Where his army had prized agony as proof of worth, this power neutralized heroism by tending to the body, feeding it, cleaning it, scheduling it, making life predictably bearable. Comfort became a strategy. Small, relentless acts of care turned into a kind of conquest that didn't break bones so much as erode conviction, and slowly, almost without spectacle, it began to win. His war was not against a man with a rifle, but against a system that defeated his spirit by keeping his body alive and well. It wasn't bullets that unmade him, but soap, a razor, a warm blanket, small mercies handed out in relentless, efficient cadence until the sharp edges of his fury dulled. Routine became the enemy. Neat schedules, clean uniforms, predictable comforts that slowly rewired what honor meant. He came home carrying a strange double weight, the public shame of surrender and a private, awkward gratitude for being kept whole. A soldier undone not by violence, but by an ordered kindness that taught him to live. His experience leaves us with a haunting question. In the contest of wills that is war, is true power found in the ability to endure chaos or in the ability to impose order? Think of the soldier who swore to die rather than surrender, then a warm shower, a haircut, a clean uniform quietly undoing him. Think of machines and schedules doing what bayonets and bravery could not. Endurance is visceral, noble, immediate. Order is quiet, patient, corrosive. One wins by surviving pain. The other wins by making pain unnecessary. Both are strength. Both can break a man, which, in the end, is the more dangerous kind.